Alright guys, so this is it. After 15 episodes, we have finally made it to the season finale, but of course the question is, how did it all end, and where are we headed next season? Let's find out. Hey guys, came out for the season finale Legend Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 16, Legendary, and I was really looking forward to this episode, but I also was kind of worried because last week's episode was incredible, and I really didn't know if they'd be able to top it after this episode, just because of the fact that that episode was so emotional, there was so much great story in that episode, and also because it barely focused on the things that have been a problem this season, and I knew that we were going to focus very much on those things that were a problem this season. I was worried that that was really going to override what the main story was, and it would be very underwhelming, but that wasn't the case at all. I thought this was a fantastic finale, a very good wrap-up. I pretty much really love this finale, definitely one of the best episodes we've had of this show, and what I love the most about it is that it really just showed that next year we are heading in a much different direction, but we're going to get to that eventually. But let's just get in this episode, which was really great. I really did think it was very satisfying and perfectly, I think, closed out this part of the show and now introduces what next year is going to be, which is already a much more complex story, which we'll get into. But let's just get into this episode because there's a lot to get into. But I want the episode starts out because we started with the Waverider laying in Star City in 2016, and Rip, you can see, pretty much has no hope left. He explains that he's dropping the team off in the present day, as they have no leads on Savage and no way to kill him, as he has Kendra and Carter. He doesn't think there is any way that he can stop Savage at this point. They have just tried so many times and they failed, and Savage has proved that he is just so much more powerful, and he just feels out of options, that he really just can't do this anymore. And Rip says that he'll go back to the Time Master's orphanage to retrieve his younger self, but that due to wrinkles in the time stream, he had to drop them off in May 2016 instead of January 2016. And they basically realized that for the past, 5 months, their families thought they were dead. So the whole, it was only 2 minutes, that doesn't apply here. Their families have thought that they were gone. And when the team tries to protest, Rip reveals he's not giving them a choice because they really don't want to have to do this. They want to go with Rip. They want to fight Savage. They want to believe that there's still a way. But Rip is saying, no, I got to do this. He feels that there really is no other way to do this. They need to drop them off. And we realize he's actually projecting a hologram, and he's still aboard the Waverider. He flies away, leaving the team trapped in the present, and obviously they're really pissed because they really wanted to go along with him. They didn't want to have to, go back. They wanted to take down Savage, and they don't want to feel like failures. I mean, that's exactly what Rip is telling you. Rip is basically telling them that he'd rather go out as a failure than, doing anything successful or accomplishing anything, which they did accomplish something. They destroyed the Oculus, but obviously they want to take down Savage, because if they can destroy the Oculus, they can very well take down Savage. I think they definitely know that, but Rip, for whatever reason, he's lost all that hope. I think it's because he knows that Savage killed his family. He knows that Savage took Kendra and Carter. He just feels that at this point, the battle's over, and there really is no way to defeat Savage. And it's sad to see, and honestly, it does make sense. I mean, Rip this entire season has been very down in his luck, very unhopeful, and we have seen that pretty much all season, but then we get to see all the characters go back, and we get some much-deserved, not closure, but just some really nice returns to their family. The hardest being Sarah, who I think by far had the best stuff in this episode. I love Sarah in this episode. I've loved Katie Lutz all season, but this particular episode was by far Katie Lutz's strongest in this season. She returns to the Arrow Cave, and what do you call it? The bunker, and she finds her father there, and basically Lance tells her straight out, she sees Lance, and he's happy to see her alive and everything, but she can tell that something is wrong, and already Lance has more of a place on Legend Tomorrow than he does on Arrow, and I already talked about yesterday how I feel that maybe Lance was going to leave or something. He doesn't really seem like he has any hints of leaving. I just feel like he's going to next week. I feel like that's what he's going to do, but he does tell her how all the destruction, everything was dark, but she knows there's more going on, and she finds out that while she was gone, Laurel was murdered, and you can just tell the effect that this is having on her. And it's not just the fact that Laurel dies, it's the fact that she didn't get to save her, and the fact that she didn't really get to do anything. It's really sad to see. No one should have to come back and go through that. You knew that was going to happen, but I thought it was very sad to see. I really did feel bad for Laurel in that situation because there's really nothing she can do. That's the saddest part about it, is that there's nothing she can do. She can't save her sister, and, she can't go back to that at all. It's really sad to see, but I thought they did some really good stuff and some really good acting between both of those two. So, in Central City, we see Mick has gone back to robbing a bank with a new partner, and when Mick's partner kills a guard chasing them, Mick turns on his partner, sets him on fire, and when he gets in his getaway car, he sees Ray sitting in the driver's seat wanting to talk, and he talks about after getting away, and Ray apologized to Mick for Len's death, and he even asks Mick, he says, aren't you over this? Like, he really shouldn't be doing this anymore. He doesn't want to be this criminal, and Mick says that Len was responsible for his own death, and that it's not Ray's fault at all, that Len wanted to go out. And yeah, I mean, Len really was one that decided to sacrifice himself. It really had nothing to do with Ray, but Ray says they should become partners instead, as Len knows that Ray would keep an eye on Mick and vice versa. So you really do see that it seems like next season the direction is that these two are going to be partners. They're going to be the new Len and Mick, which I do like seeing. I think it's good to see. I mean, you're never going to change that Len and Mick dynamic. I think definitely that void we kind of did feel in this episode that he wasn't there. But there was enough good stuff in this episode that we didn't really need Colt. We didn't really need Colt or Len, whatever you want to call him, in it. I think it's some really good stuff with him here, and I like that Ray actually talks about him about getting away from the crime, because Len has expressed interest throughout his entire season. Mick really hasn't, but it's really not done Mick any good. I mean, think about it. He was Kronos, he turned against them, he almost was killed. I mean, really, it's done Mick no good that, he went dark, and I like that he's trying to tell him that you really don't want to go dark. You think you have because you've done this all your life, but you really don't want to do this. So I really like seeing that. Stein is enjoying game a Trivial Pursuit with his wife, but realizes that he still has unfinished business with the team. He knows every single question in Trivial Pursuit. I thought that was really funny, but his wife talks to him about this sabbatical and really what that means and why he left her, but realizes that he still has unfinished business with the team and he needs to go back. This is not, he can't just, take a break. There are no breaks. He needs to go back, and the next morning he heads back to where he last saw the ship with Jax, and basically, I love that they went back so quickly, because they know that they really don't want to be doing this. They don't want to have to take this break. They don't want to have to just stay there. They want to go back. They want to go back. They want to, take on Savage, even though Ray doesn't think they can. They want to. They don't care that there is no way. They want to do this because they don't want to end unsatisfied. They want to end successfully and not failures, and it really just showed the development in all of them, especially because we know that initially they want nothing to do with this, and it really has changed them. It's really affected them, and I love seeing that. And of course, I think, to Rip, he thought he was doing a good thing because he was returning them to their time, making it seem like they wouldn't have to do this stuff anymore, but they want to. They want to take him on, and the next morning he heads back to where he last saw the ship with Jax and discovers that the rest of the team also wants to find a way to bring the Waverider back to the present day because they just don't want to not try. That's the thing. It's not just the fact that they haven't completed this mission, it's the fact that they didn't even try. They let Savage get away. They want to obviously save Kendra and Carter, and they don't want, Savage's future to end up being the world. They don't want him to be this immoral tyrant. They don't want him to destroy the world, and basically, after a brief argument, the team convinces Rip to let them back aboard the Waverider, and Rip thinks that there's no way to do this, that Rip receives a transmission from the team, flies back to Star City, and he feels there's no way. He feels, look, you've done what you need to do, I'm out of this, I just can't do this anymore, and they convince Rip to let them back on the Waverider and continue their mission. It's a really good scene. I love the way that was done, and I like that Mick really was the one that convinced him, said, you're an idiot for doing all this and everything, and Rip decides that, what, let's just do this, why not? You can tell that Rip doesn't really want to, but they're just so persistent that they have to. So we see that Kendra and Carter, they're in 1944 France. Kendra runs into an American soldier, recognizing the helmet as the one sitting in Rip's cabin on the Waverider, and she hides a message inside of it before Savage chases her down, knocks her out, kills the soldier in the process. Crazy stuff overall. But again, I'm not going to, and I will say something I really do like about this episode, that there was no love triangle. There was no Kendra and Carter bullshit. That wasn't here, which I'm glad, because that's really been the thing this season that just hasn't been working. Not that Kendra's been a bad character, she just hasn't been very well realized, and I like that this episode, she pretty much was what we needed to see of her. She was captured by Savage. Savage obviously still in love with her, and I definitely like seeing that. So on the Waverider, Sarah immediately decks Rip, puts a knife to his throat, throat. And I mean, you know that Sarah obviously is dealing with Laurel's death, but I never thought it would get this deep into it, and it really is this great scene. Sarah demands he take her back in time to rescue Laurel, but Rip uses a device to knock her out, and she literally wants to go back, and it's crazy, but Rip does knock her out and everything, because he knows, you know, that there really isn't a way to do that. That's not why they're here. But it's clear that Laurel's main focus is not to defeat Savage, but to make sure that her sister does not get killed, because she feels she could have saved her. And we eventually realize why that wouldn't happen. But I really did like seeing that. I thought there was some really good stuff there. And like I said, Katie Letts really killed in this episode. She kills it every episode, but this episode, you really felt that emotion. You really felt like that emptiness in her, that she wasn't there. And just the fact that she wasn't there to save her, it's really sad to see. So as Mick drags Sarah away to help her sleep it off, Jax accidentally knocks the World War II helmet in Rip's office. However, Rip realized that the helmet has been displaced due to, chronoactic displacement caused by a change in the timeline. So obviously that's a problem, that there's this change in the timeline. We don't really know why there's a change in the timeline, but something has happened where there's a change in the timeline, and Rip finds Kendra's note in the helmet, tells Gideon to head to France, realizes that Kendra was captured, and they go to France. And I love that Rip was the one that found this and that he was the one that saved them. I thought that was really good, because they could have had Ray do that, but it just would have been really cheesy, so I'm glad that Rip did that. And what I love again about, something else I love about this episode, is that this was really a no bullshit kind of episode. Like, there really was no, you know, romantic stuff getting in the way. There was no filler stuff. This was all straight to the mission, and I really love that, because that's really what this season is needing to focus on, is this mission. We haven't focused on this mission nearly enough, and this episode we did. So back in France, Savage draws blood from both Kendra and Carter, which he needs to activate the Thanagarian technology hidden inside of the meteors that gave him and Kendra and Carter their powers. And once he unlocks the technology, he can travel back to the past and erase history completely. Because what he's planning on doing is basically taking over. I guess he wants to basically be a tyrant of the world, pretty much, and he wants to take down. And it's fitting that he goes back to the 1940s, because who was alive in the 1940s? Hitler. I was actually thinking that he was going to have a full-on conversation with Hitler, because the difference between Savage and Hitler is pretty uncanny. I've already talked about this before. Similarities between those two, you see very well. You see that Savage definitely is very much like Hitler, and I think this episode very much reiterate that. The fact that he wants absolute power, the fact that he wants to take control, and the lengths that he's willing to go is insane. I mean, the fact that he even killed a soldier, that's enough, but just everything that Savage has done, he really is Savage. That's why his name is Savage, because he's a savage. So Rip talks to Sarah about her sister's death, and it's a really sad scene, because you do see that Rip genuinely cares, and he wishes that there was something he can do. But he reveals that despite her wanting to, he can't save Laurel, because he already altered the timeline when he originally recruited Sarah. And in the original timeline, not only did Dark kill Laurel, he also killed Sarah and Lance as well. So the entire Lance family would have died, and had it not been for Rip saving her, her father would be dead, and, you know, Laurel would be dead as well, and she would also be dead. And I think it's a great reveal. I love the way that was done. It really shows why Sarah initially, you know, was in this mission, what Rip actually did for them, and it does show that Rip actually does really care, which I think has kind of been missing. Like, sometimes you've seen that Rip has cared, sometimes it seems like he's cared about his family more, but you see he really does care about them. And Sarah says she can't go on without her sister, but Rip tells her that she's one of the strongest people he knows, and I love the advice that Rip really gave her. And I know a lot of people have said, oh, Rip's kind of been an asshole all season. I've never really seen it that way. I've just seen Rip as very depressed and very losing hope, you know, just very hopeless and very focused on saving his family. But now he knows he can't do that. He knows that his family is dead and there is no saving them. Even though he wants to, he can't possibly do that. They're both, you know, Miranda and I think Jonah was his son's name. They're both dead, and there's Miranda and Jonas. He can't save either of them. They're dead, and, you know, because Savage killed them last week, and he can't save them because of that. I mean, as much as he wants to, I think he's just faced the fact that he can't really save them, and that's really the thing that's taken a toll on Rip. He wanted to save them, but now that he knows he can't, he does actually want to help them, and I like that he does have, you know, Sarah's best interest. He did want to help her. He wanted to make sure that Sarah lived, and he basically was the one that saved her life, which I thought was a great reveal, and really shows that Rip is as great as a character as he seemed to be, because it's always seemed like Rip is this character that just isn't as well realized as he should have been, and here he really was. I love what they did with him here. Rip then taught, basically, and it was a really great scene. One of my favorite scenes of the episode, probably. I really love the way that was done, and Sarah kind of gets closure in this way. You know, she kind of gets closure, she kind of doesn't, but I think she's just realizing why this had to happen and why things are the way they are. We then see the Waverider lands in 1944 just as Savage ambushes a Nazi convey carrying a Thanagarian meteor. Half the team moves in on Savage while Firestorm finds Kendra and Carter in the time ship, and while fleeing with Carter and Kendra and Tau, Firestorm accidentally transmits a Nazi rifle, and he loses Kendra when she gets knocked out by one of Savage's men. And outnumbered and outgunned, the team flees back to the Waverider without Kendra because obviously they weren't able to save her, unfortunately. And, I mean, we've seen all season that they've struggled. But the other thing I love of this episode is that there is no one controlling them, because obviously the Oculus is gone. This is now them doing this on their own. Nobody is telling them what to do. There's nothing set up for them. This is all just, you know, they're going to see how this works. They're going to see how this goes. And that's one of the things I think that works so well about this episode is that there was nothing underwhelming because no one is writing this for them. And there's nothing in their way, really, except for Savage. That's what's in their way, and I love seeing that. So back on the Waverider, confused Carter tells Rip and the team about what he knows about Savage's plan. He doesn't really know a lot, but he knows very much what Savage is trying to do, and it does show that Carter is still on their side, which I really did like seeing. The only real problem with this episode is that Carter, just as a whole character, he feels kind of out of place. He really does. The fact that he wasn't there all season, he just feels kind of out of place here. Not bad by any means, he just feels kind of out of place. So afterwards, Stein and Jax practice controlling their newfound power of transmutation. When Stein realizes what Savage's plan is, he wants to detonate the Thanagarian meteor in 3 different time periods, which this plan is awesome. I love this plan they come up with. It is really cool. Basically, they decide that they're going to practice controlling newfound power of transmutation, and Stein realizes what Savage's plan is. He wants to detonate the Thanagarian meteor in 3 different time periods to create a temporal paradox and destroy the timeline for good. That way, Savage was never alive, and that way they'll go all the way back to the ancient Egypt, which of course is when Rip first came in contact with Savage, and sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Savage meets his past self in the 1950s, gives him a vial of blood to detonate one of the meteorites, and Stein explains in order to stop, which that was a really cool scene, the way that was done. And we remember, the Savage then was not the Savage in the 1950s. We see Stein then explains in order to stop Savage, they need to kill him in 3 different time periods. Luckily, the radiation from the mirrors will be enough to temporarily turn him immortal, so anyone can kill him, because, you know, that's the thing. I mean, all season long, we've heard it in the intro, every episode. I have, to stop an immortal tyrant named Vandal Savage. This will turn him into mortal, which won't make him as powerful, and they'll be able to neutralize him that way. So Savage plans on detonating the meteors in St. Roch in 2021, Harmony Falls in 1958, and Norway in 1975. So they have to go to those 3 places and detonate the bombs. So the team splits off into 3 teams to kill Savage in each time period simultaneously, using the meteor as a trigger to begin. We see Savage starts the ritual in all 3 time periods. The team simultaneously attacks, and this is such a cool scene. I love the way this was done. Kendra goes to 2021. She frees herself from her bonds when Carter gets hurt, joins the fight. In 1974, Sarah fights Savage at one-on-one. Meanwhile, Rip gets shot in 2021, but lands on the Waverider, which gives Carter and Kendra an opening to attack Savage. I love the way that scene was done. That was really cool. Kendra then stabs Savage in 2021, so he's dead there. Mick torches Savage in 1958, which you can tell he loved doing, and I love that Ray was beside me, because again, they decided to be that team, and I love seeing that. And Sarah snaps Savage's neck in 1975, which you can kind of tell she does, that's kind of her inner rage for not getting to kill Dark and not getting to save her sister, but Savage starts to bleed out. He taunts Rip about his family, which causes Rip to deliver the final blow, and this finally pushes Rip over the edge. He is not going to hide anymore. He is not going to back down. He says, I'm gonna end up like Miranda Jonas, and he says, don't ever say that name again. He just kills him, and I love that Rip was the one to take him down. Savage is now dead. Do I care? I mean, I knew Savage was gonna die. That's the thing. Savage has not been working all season. He's not a bad villain. He just was never that power. He just never had that charisma or that menacing presence that Dark or Zoom had this season. Those 2 characters are just so much more interesting, and I think Savage was a good introduction, but that's really all he was. He was a good introduction into the show. He never really exactly worked, and I don't really think they ever realized really what... I think he definitely got better as the season went on. Like, Casper Crumb, I think, definitely liked the role more as he went on with it. He did a good job, definitely. I don't think Casper Crumb is nearly as bad as everyone says, but I will admit that most times he was very one-note, and you didn't really necessarily care about Savage. Like, we didn't really know exactly what his motivation was. Like, it kind of was just he wanted to be be an immoral tyrant, and that's kind of like Hitler. That's just kind of how I saw it. So the meteors start to go critical, and they are far from over. We see, right? We know that obviously they're not done because we are now only in half an hour into the episode, which I like they defeated Savage in the beginning, the half an hour into the episode, so the rest of the episode could deal with what we really want to see. So we see Ray and Firestorm manage to disable the meteors in their respective time periods, which was an awesome scene. Unfortunately, when the team gathers in 2021, they discover that they can't disable the third meteor, which is about to explode, and basically Rip puts it best that time will be intact, but the world not so much. And Rip pulls the meteor onto the Waverider. He sets a course to fly into the sun, and he's planning on killing himself. He's planning on sacrificing himself to do this. The team tries to talk Rip out of committing suicide, but he thanks the team, guides Chip into the sun. And I think he did it for two reasons. One, he wanted to show his loyalty to the team. Two, he didn't really see a point in living anymore. He just didn't see a point in doing this. He felt like he basically served his purpose, and a light overtakes Rip. He sees his family sitting on the Waverider. Rip hugs his wife and son as the Waverider falls into the sun. It's a great scene. I love the way that whole scene was done there, where basically he finally gets that closure. He gets to see his son and his wife for one last time. And even though I think this storyline hasn't been nearly as emotionally satisfying as it should be, I honestly did get a bit teary-eyed here. I think they really did a great job with that. It falls into the sun. Rip then wakes up. He realizes that neither he nor Gideon wants to die. Obviously, he doesn't just want to die. And he tells Gideon to prepare for one final jump 20 minutes into the past. And Rip picks up the rest of the team, explains that he dumped the meteor into the sun. He then explains that with the Time Masters out of commission, someone needs to protect the time stream, and offers everyone a place on his team. And that really is the big question of what's everyone going to be doing now that they've defeated Savage. Now the meteors are good. Now really what happens? I mean, the Time Master out of commission. Now he seems like he's going to lead the Time Masters because there are no more Time Masters. Obviously, with them destroying the Oculus and whatnot, there are no more Time Masters. So someone needs to protect the time stream, and he feels that they all should do that. So the rest of this episode is them really figuring out if they want to do that. We see in the present day, Sarah visits Laurel's grave, says that she should stay to help fight Dark. However, Lance says that Laurel would have wanted her to go with Rip, and it's a really nice scene. Again, I like this scene here between Lance and Sarah. I think their scenes worked really well here. And you see that Lance, while he does want Sarah back in his life, he knows that she has to fight a greater enemy, and that this is bigger than all of them. I mean, Dark obviously is a problem, but Sarah hasn't been there to fight Dark. She'll probably end up dying anyway. The best thing to do is to go there where she won't die, and she will feel like she knows what she's doing. And I like seeing that, definitely. And again, as much as we do feel bad for Sarah that she can't take on Dark, she does get to go back to the team. I love the way that was done. Stein then plays another round Trivial Pursuit with Clarissa, but when Jax walks in, Stein doesn't want to leave his wife, we see. He actually doesn't want to leave, and it's kind of reverse of what happened with Jax and Stein when they first were recruited to join, because if you remember, Stein was all for it, while Jax really didn't want to go at all. He just didn't really want to be a hero. He kind of just didn't really care at that point, but it really does show the development in Jax that he wants to go, and Stein doesn't want to go. We see basically he doesn't want to leave his wife because all that time, that sabbatical, he hasn't had time to see her, but basically, Jax and Clarissa both think that being Firestorm, protecting the time stream, is more important, and that is what Stein is served to do. That is what he does best. He works really well with Jax, and that they need to do this. They've really became, and that's something I think that's really good about Jax and Stein, is that these two really become a lot closer. They're not just two people who are working together. They are best friends, and they really do work really well together. I love seeing that. Of course, Jax's name for him, Gray, I've always loved, so they decide that they are going to continue protecting the time stream. And then in a skeezy bar in Central City in 2013, not 2016, we're in 2013 actually, we see Mick meets Len, tells his partner that he's the best man he ever knew, when you knew that we were going to see Len again, because it was already confirmed that Len's going to live, and that makes sense, because obviously Len's not alive in 2016, but he is alive in 2013, and he tells partner that he's the best man he ever knew, that he was a hero to Len, and Mick leaves, and it's a great scene. I love the way that was done. Basically he's saying that he was a hero to him, and I like that he's telling him, look, go be that hero. You're not a villain. You are a hero, even though you don't think you're capable of doing that. Your destiny is to be, this crime lord and everything, commit all these crimes. That's not what you're meant to do. You are meant to be a hero, and it's a really nice scene. I can understand if someone thinks, oh, it's just kind of far-fetched and everything. I think it was really well well done. You really do see that Len realized he could be a hero, and that made him sure that if he can be a hero, then Mick can be a hero. Because Mick was always kind of the one that just went along with what Len wanted to do, until, of course, they got on the Waverider. Then they became a lot more divided on things. But Mick leaves, he meets Rip and Ray outside, and Rip says they can always go back to the past so that Mick can visit Len again. And again, you really do see that Rip at this point, he's a lot more confident. He's not as down in his luck. He's not as upset. And I think it's going to make for a much better character. It's not that Rip has been a bad character, but he's just been so depressing all season long. He's been so dark. He's been so down in his luck. He's been so serious. And now he's not. He's really not. He's actually a lot more, he cares a lot more about the team. He shows a lot more sympathy. And he's not so focused on getting his family back because he's now satisfied with that. He's part of his, he's gotten closure with that. He's now ready to move on, and we see the team reassembles in 2016. But the big question is, are they all going to stay? He said he's happy that they're staying, but Kendra and Carter actually decided to stay behind, which actually I'm happy about because they have been the main problem with this season. Those two characters, that's why the season hasn't been working, because Kendra and Carter just haven't been as great as we thought they were going to be. And I'm sure we're going to see them again at some point. Maybe we'll see them in recurring roles, but right now they decided they want to stay behind, and I feel like it's going to be how the show is, that some of the members of the team are going to go, some of them aren't. I kind of saw it that way. Since they no longer have Savage trying to kill them after the two Hawks depart, a second wave, because, that's why they agreed to do this in the first place, is the fact that Savage was going to try to kill them. They knew that they obviously had to stop him. But now that they're together, they want to be together. They don't want to have to deal with any more chaos and, any other possibilities of losing each other, because they want to be together. And I did like Kendra's little goodbye to Ray. Ray said it's fine, that he knows those two are meant to be together. You can tell he did love Kendra, but it just didn't really work out. And I'm glad that those two did end up together, because Kendra and Carter, that's what it was meant to be. The only reason I ever think Ray and Kendra ever happened is because they wanted to try something and it just didn't really work. So does Ray have a love interest? Maybe he'll find next season. Oh yeah, I could totally see that happening. But after the two Hawks depart, a second Waverider appears out of nowhere, crushed in front of them, and we finally find out where we are headed next season. We see our man, who is, I didn't know who this was, but he walks out of the ship, tells him not to get on the ship. He says that he's a member of the Justice Society, and right away I looked up who this character was, because he says his name is Rex Tyler. I'm like, who is Rex Tyler? He says he's a member of the Justice Society of America, and that Mick and the rest of the team send him to intercept their past selves, and that's where this episode ends. We are headed to next season, and I already found out more about Rex Tyler. Rex Tyler is a member of the JSA, which is from Earth-2, so, Jay Garrick's a part of that, but yeah, definitely Earth-2, that is the direction we are headed next season, which also gives us a lot more freedom, because we know, of course, Supergirl just became a CW show, and because that they are going to be doing a 4-part crossover, they already said they're going to with all 4 shows, and that perfectly makes sense. The fact they're going to the multiverse, the fact that we're going to other worlds, I mean, this is something that we didn't do this season. We went to different time periods, but we didn't go to other worlds, and that's what it seems like next season's going to be. It's going to be going to Earth-2, it's going to be going to different multiverses, and that's going to be awesome. That I cannot wait to see. Earth-2 especially, because Sarah might get to see her sister again, so that's really cool. And I like that we have most of the team staying. We still have Mick, we still have Ray, we still have Sarah, and we still have Jax and Stein. Those are the people we still have. Now, I do think there are going to be others along the way, such as Rex Tyler. He's going to be one of the people that are joining them. I heard some people say Constantine could possibly join them. I could see that happening. Constantine doesn't have any other thing that he's doing, so I could totally see him joining them. Of course, they can always get Len from other time periods as well, so I think that's really cool. But I'm really interested in seeing what the JSA really is about. I mean, we don't really know too much about it. Other than what we've seen on The Flash, we don't know that much else about Earth-2. We only know what's going on with the Central City part of Earth-2. We don't know the rest of Earth-2, and that's something I'm looking forward to seeing in next season, because I really feel like that's going to be a big part, is finding out more about Earth-2, finding out more about Rex Tyler, how this whole situation came about, and who are they taking down next season? Who is the villain that they're going to take down? Hopefully he's more compelling than Savage. I don't know who it's going to be. Really, your guess is as good as mine as to who they really are taking down, but I think I'm going to be a lot more into next season already, and they can do more with next season as well. But yeah, I just looked up JSA. The founding members, you got Adam, you got Dr. Fate, The Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Hourman, Sandman, and the Spectre. Now, I don't know if they're introducing all those characters. I mean, we already have The Flash, but Green Lantern, possibly. I mean, that's really cool that we could get Green Lantern next year. I don't know if that's going to happen, because we know Green Lantern, obviously, Justice League? Would they really do Green Lantern on Legends Tomorrow and not just introduce him in Justice League? I'm not really sure, because obviously they're trying to set up the Justice League in the DC movies right now. We already know they have a different Flash in there, so I'm not really sure. But this really brings up a lot more possibilities that I really didn't think of before. The fact that we could go to these other places, the fact that we could go to other multiverses, that's the direction I think we're headed next season. Kendra and Carter, I do think are eventually going to be part of this. I don't know what role they play next season, but I feel they are going to be a big part of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. I do think that Len's eventually going to come back. I don't know when, but I think he definitely is going to come back. Let's talk about this season overall. This was not a bad season. It was obviously very underwhelming. I definitely will say that. It's not necessarily as good as it could have been. I think this really was the test out season, like really test it out, see how it works, and I think they now know what works and what doesn't. What works in the show is when they go somewhere different and they do something they haven't done before and they get to meet all these new characters and this experience changes them. When they go to the future, it's just boring. It really wasn't that interesting. They really didn't do much with it, and when they stayed in that Waverider, it just wasn't as interesting. But now we have a second Waverider and we have Rex Tyler joining them along. It seems like, Rip isn't even the leader of this anymore. Now Rex Tyler is the leader, and that's something I'm looking forward to seeing, because Rip is still going along with them, obviously, but Rex Tyler seems like he is the one that is going to be telling them what to do. He's going to be getting the commands, and I can't wait to see how that all turns out. But overall, guys, I really did enjoy the season. This was a really great finale overall. I like seeing the takedown of Savage. I'm glad to see that character go, because honestly, he wasn't bad, but I just could not see him lasting past this season. I really couldn't. I liked seeing that closure with Sarah and Laurel that we got. I thought there was some really good stuff there. And especially with Mick. I thought Mick particularly had a great episode, with him realizing his real destiny. And I'm looking forward to seeing if him and Ray are actually going to team up, and if they're actually going to become these two, kind of become like Len and Mick, even though they'll never be like Len and Mick, because they don't have the relationship that Len and Mick will ever have. They'll never have that. But I do think they're going to become like Len and Mick, definitely. I think that definitely is what they're trying to show here. Overall, guys, I definitely really love this finale. I can't wait for next season. Let me know what you guys saw of this finale, what you think of this season in general. Love to hear your thoughts. I know a lot of people did not love this season, but I'm definitely looking forward to next season. Next season already looks 10 times better than this season, just because of where we can go, because we already know that Supergirl takes place in a different universe than Arrow, Legends Tomorrow, and The Flash, so that gives them ways to cross over with Supergirl. You could get the people from Arrow on there. I mean, the possibilities for next season really are endless, and here's really, I think, the thing with this season. They just didn't realize really what they could be doing. I mean, they focused on this one plot. It wasn't bad, but it never really was as great as what they could be doing. I mean, they never really understood the real possibilities that they had, and I think next season they're really going to understand more of what they can do, more of what we can see, and that's something I'm definitely looking forward to next season. Alright, guys, you guys saw the season. Love to hear your thoughts on it, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be probably for the series premiere of Lady Dynamite or for The Path. I don't know which one, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.